Hey everyone, we're going to do 2 exercises today to activate your glutes. There's a lot of exercises to turn on glutes and things. It doesn't really matter which exercise you do as long as you can actually activate your glutes and you're not still overusing your lower back or your hamstring. So I'm going to try and teach you how to just activate your glutes in these next 2 exercises. So start off having a lie on your back, and the second one will be on all fours. So the first thing we need to do is to get our lumbar spine, hips and pelvis in a good position to activate our glutes. If our lower back is pushed down into the ground, it's very hard to activate your glutes. So what we want is a little dip or an arch in our lower back, and you should feel the weight of your pelvis kind of tipped a little bit towards your tailbone. And then when we've got the hang of that, we want to make sure that we're not bracing around our lower back and rib cage. So you're going to get your breathing going. So you're going to breathe in through your nose, down deep into your rib cage, lungs, and breathe out through your nose or mouth. Breathing like this helps to keep tension and bracing away from the lower back, and it allows our glutes to do the job instead. One more breath here. Now that we've got our spine in position and our breathing going, so our back muscles are relaxed or more relaxed, you're going to bring your hands down to your hips. So get your hands in that crease of your hip joint. This is where we want to get all the movement and the drive from in your bridge. So you're going to push your heels into the ground. You might feel your butt activate already. You can put your hands in it to check it out. And then you're going to drive your hips up towards the ceiling. Imagine your hips opening like a book. And then as you lower down, all the movement's going to come from the hips again. So you're going to fold at the hips and imagine your tailbone lowering down to the ground and touching down first. You still have that little curve in your lower back. Cool, so we're on our heels. Push the heels into the ground. Drive the hips up towards the ceiling. If you feel your lower back, check in that you're not flaring your ribs, arching through your back. So rest the ribs down nice and easy. And you should still be breathing down deep into those lower lungs. You should feel your glutes starting to work here. Fold at the hips to lower down. And we're going to go for 3 more. So drive through the heels to lift up. Keep the ribs relaxed. And if you don't feel your glute, check in that you're pressing down through the center of your heels. Some of us tend to fall onto the outside of our heels or knock into the inside. So push into the center of the heels, and that should help to activate your glutes. And then fold at the hips to lower down. You've got 2 more to go. Drive through the heels, pressing up. It's like the hips are opening up, pushing down through the center of the heels. And then folding at the hips, your tailbone drops down first. Cool, and last 1 or 2, I have lost count with all the cues. Drive through your heels, push through the center of the heels, the hips open up, the trunk and lower back stays relaxed, you're breathing into this area. And then fold at the hips to lower down, tailbone touches down first. Your last glute bridge to activate your glutes. Drive through the heels, press the hips up. Keep yourself breathing and nice and relaxed around your lower kind of rib cage, lower back. Push down through the center of the heels to drive the hips a little higher. Hopefully by now you can feel what it's like to have your glutes turned on. And then fold at the hips to lower down. Give your hips a little bit of a wiggle. Hug your knees into your chest for a second. Have a rock from side to side. And then we are going to transition into all fours. So you can learn to turn on your glutes in a different, less supported position. And then from there you progress to standing. Cool. But let's get it a nice supported position, your bridge on the floor, and now all fours. So a little bit less support. Exact same things to check out for. We want a natural little dip in our lower back. It should not be flat and braced. So think about sticking your tailbone out a little bit. You should be able to wag your tail basically, if you had a tail. And then straighten your right leg out. You're maintaining that little dip in your lower back. You can place your left hand on your belly, on your tummy, just lightly, and you're not going to let your belly drop down into that hand when you lift this back leg. You're going to tighten the glute and think about pushing the center of the heel up towards the ceiling. And you're going to go as high as you can without letting your tummy drop. And then lower. So basically you're just trying to isolate hip movement. And you're not going to, if your hip gets a bit stiff and tight, you're not going to compensate and go using your lower back. You're just going to go as far as your hip allows, and that should help turn on the glute muscles at the back of your hip. You're going to go for 2 or 3 more here. Last one. Lower it down. Let's swap to the other side. Give your wrist a shake out if it needs it. Straighten out the left leg. Your toes are still touching the ground for this bit of setup. You're going to have a little dip in your lower back. So you're not going to dip all the way. You're not going to flatten all the way. You're just going to rest in the middle of those 2 movements. Everyone's a little bit different. And then take your right hand, place it on your tummy, and that'll give you some feedback on whether or not you're moving your spine instead of your hip. So tummy wants to stay still, strong. Tighten the glute, push the center of the heel up towards the ceiling, and then lower it down. And you're just going to go for 6. You can think about your heel being pulled away from you so the leg is nice and long. And then think about pushing the back of that heel up towards the ceiling. And you're just going as far as your hip allows. Last 2. Last 1. Cool, and then bring both knees down. Press your bum back onto your heels for a little bit of a child's pose. And take 3 nice deep breaths into the back of the rib cage, back of the lungs. And this will help release any tension in your lower back. Sometimes if we hold loads of tension in our lower back, it prevents our glutes from being able to turn on because the lower back is doing everything. And then walk the hands back under your shoulders. Come up into a seated position and you're all finished your little tutorial to turn on your glutes.